Let's get started. I have 9:32 on my calendar, so thanks for joining us today, folks. This is our Chamber Chat Live program, and I'm Jeff Emsar. I'm the Executive Director of the Greensburg-Decatur County Chamber of Commerce, and we're glad that you were able to join us today. Take the time out of your busy schedule to watch this program today. Chamber Associate Don Lowe is also joining us, and will be monitoring our chat room for any questions you may have, or feel free to wait until the end of the program and we will unmute you if you would rather ask your question in person. And we're pleased today to welcome Rex McKinney, CEO of Decatur County Memorial Hospital, and Suki Wright, the Quality and Corporate Compliance Officer at Decatur County Memorial. And Rex and Suki, thank you for joining us today. We certainly do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Glad to be on this morning and just share some community information. I think it's going to be very valuable to the community to understand where exactly we're at with the COVID crisis and the vaccine and a lot of other exciting things that we feel we're doing here at Decatur County Memorial Hospital to meet the community needs.
Absolutely. You know, Rex and Suki, we know this has been a difficult year for many, and certainly healthcare personnel and you folks are in that category as well. We know there's been great strain, great stress, and obviously it's all over the news, of course. Obviously, the long-awaited vaccine is being rolled out across the country. And Rex, I was looking yesterday evening at the state COVID-19 website, and that shows Decatur County. I think this is as of Monday. I think they update it at noon every day, and I'm sure it's probably running at least a day behind. So it said as of Tuesday, Decatur County has had 52 deaths that have been attributed to the virus, and 8,741 individuals have been tested, and there have been 1,805 cases. So with all that being said, we certainly, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the people that have been affected by this, and especially those who have lost loved ones with this. It's been very difficult. But Decatur County Memorial Hospital is a critical care access facility with 25 beds. And with that being said, I'm wondering if you could tell our audience what the conditions are now at Decatur County Memorial, and are you able to disclose how many beds are currently being used for COVID-19 patients, and or how high has that number gotten to?
Yeah, glad to share some detail. Currently today, we have approximately 19 patients in the hospital, and right at half of those are COVID positive patients. Now we have the capacity, the formal capacity is 25 beds for our facility, but we have what we call a surge plan that can accommodate actually almost 40 patients if we really need to do that. We have not needed to do that. In the spring, I want to talk a little bit about what today looks like versus the spring. So February, March, as you know, Decatur County was significantly hit with a high positivity rate, and we were impacted significantly with some very critically ill patients coming in the door and being served here at Decatur County Memorial Hospital. And that's different than it is today. We still have a lot of patients, but the acuity level, the severe illness is a little different right now. It is not as acutely ill. The patients that we're serving is not as acutely ill as they presented in the spring for whatever reason. We don't know the clinical reason behind that. We're also seeing today in our clinic, we have maintained our respiratory clinic in the community, and over the last 3 weeks, we have served 30 to 60 patients per day. So it's been extraordinarily busy. The patients have stayed ambulatory. That is, they have not had to be admitted to the hospital as an inpatient or anything like that. And I think one of the reasons why we're able to keep them out of the hospital is some of the leading edge therapies that are right here available today at Decatur County Memorial Hospital. We have provided the antibody infusion therapy that was produced by Eli Lilly. I think since that drug was available, within 4 business days, we were able to provide that therapy to the community. And at this point, we have provided over 40 patients have received that infusion here at Decatur County Memorial Hospital, and we will continue doing that as long as that therapy is available. So the dynamic is a little different clinically. All areas of the hospital, we're fully staffed right now. 2 weeks ago, we had over 30 individuals out, not able to work due to quarantine. And today, that number is less than half. It's right around 14 or 15 that are out today. So we're battling that just like the community at large is, with individuals being impacted. But I'm very proud of our team with what we've been able to do in responding to these challenges. Our staff and our physicians, our nurse practitioners are so dedicated to meeting the needs of the community. And I feel like we've been right on the leading edge with a variety of services and therapies to ensure that our community is taken care of, and very proud of that.
Yeah, that's terrific. Number one, I have two questions from that statement. That infusion therapy, does that work? You have to go inside the hospital for that therapy, or is that something that you provide at the hospital, or they get at the hospital and they take home? How's that process work? And I understand you're not a doctor. I get that. So.
No, but I work with several, and we do have very specific clinical protocols with the antibody infusion therapy. You have to meet certain criteria. You cannot be an inpatient in the hospital admitted. You have to be a patient with certain risk factors, over a certain age, and you have to be ambulatory. That is, you're able to get up and get around and not severely ill. We have set up a specialized infusion center at the hospital where these patients are positive with COVID, so we bring them in a specific entrance. We have all the PPE for our staff and for the patients, so they're in and out very quickly with regards to the therapy. It takes approximately an hour to infuse the medication, and we've just had some tremendous clinical stories. Our physicians and our providers return a phone call to these patients after the therapy, and there are a significant number of very positive results. Patients who really felt terrible one day, 1 and 2 days later after this infusion, reporting that they feel much, much better. So again, just so pleased that we're able to set up that specialized unit. Our staff has done fantastic, and our physicians really have learned the benefit of this therapy and providing it to the community.
And I think that Decatur County Memorial Hospital is one of the top 5-6 employers, largest employers in the county. But when you have that many staff out, is that difficult? And that puts a lot of strain on the other employees, right? Not everybody can do those jobs with the staff members that were out, probably that work either in the emergency room or emergency services and things like that.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about how we have responded. So it's not business as usual. So back in February, it was a week prior to President Trump declaring a national emergency, we set up a structure called Incident Command. And that's why I wanted to have Suki here today, because Suki has been the leader of our Incident Command process since February. We did pause it a bit through the summer, but approximately a month ago, we reinstituted that Incident Command structure, whereas the Incident Command monitors our situations very closely, and as we have staff out, or we have an influx of patients, or we have certain supply needs in certain areas, the Incident Command is watching that very closely. And Suki has just done a fantastic job coordinating all these functions to ensure that our staffing is appropriate, our staff have support they need, the supplies, and that sort of thing. So to your point, Jeff, yes, it's extremely difficult. We have some staff that are working a significant amount of overtime. We also have physicians that are assisting other physicians in various scenarios to ensure the community members are kept safe and cared for appropriately. So just an extraordinary team effort going on right here in Decatur County Memorial Hospital system.
Terrific. Suki, as far as you know, has that Incident Command had to be enacted before at the hospital here locally? I mean, have there been instances before where this is such a large thing as this has happened?
Well, we've had, of course, when weather-related issues, things like that, but very short term. This is the first time that it's ever been in place for such a long time.
Terrific. Well, I'm sure you guys had that plan worked out, and I'm glad it's working out. Terrific. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Pfizer vaccine is the only one that's been approved at this time, and the Moderna vaccine is waiting approval, which I'm understanding that should come any time. And then we have other companies that are still in either trial 3 or their phase 3 of their trials, and waiting as that gets through the process for FDA approval. So, obviously, is that the right Am I stating that right, Rex?
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit about the planning for this. So
Yeah.
approximately 6 weeks ago, we heard that the Pfizer vaccine was going to require a super freezer, minus 80 degrees Celsius. So these drugs require a specialized freezer. And that's one of our functions of incident command. Suki had learned about this. She said, Rex, hey, if we're going to do this for our community, we have to have this $11,000 freezer. We immediately ordered that. And of course, there was a backlog, but we were able to acquire that freezer. Once we acquired that freezer, we appealed to the state and said, hey, we are equipped to provide this to our community independently, because the state has been allocating freezers to certain areas. We did not receive one of those. So we wanted to serve our community, make sure the access to this vaccine was available. So we are fully prepared right now to give that vaccine beginning Friday if we receive the vaccine as we expect. And I'd like for Suki to talk a little bit about that process, because there's a lot of questions in the community about that.
I'd like to know more about that process of how we were approved to receive the vaccine, and how many doses you think we might get, and how does this whole thing work for your first people who are going to get vaccinated. Suki?
Yeah, so the state has coordinated all of this. And once, like Rex had said, that we acquired the freezer, we appealed to them to say that we wanted to be able to serve our community, and we had the resources to do that. So they added us as one of the phase 1A sites. We're one of only 55 hospitals in the state that will have access to it. So it's supposed to arrive Thursday, and we'll get the heads up when it gets here. There are 5 pilot hospitals in the state that have already received it. So they're working through the process of giving the vaccines and getting people registered and signed in. And so there's a webinar later today for us to learn, lessons learned from those 5 pilot hospitals that have since received that. So we will receive it Thursday. We're standing up our clinic now, and we already have people scheduled for Friday. So it's those healthcare workers that come in contact or possible contact with patients that could be infectious, as well as long-term care workers. So they were prioritized by the state to be the first one. So as an employer, we've notified our staff, and then the state will also notify them as well.
So do you know how many doses you're expecting to get initially to start out with, or?
Yeah, we'll get 975 doses, and so we'll get that, and depending on how we use that, if we're able to get that dispensed out, they'll monitor that, and then we'll get that, what they think we need for the next week. So they wanted to know what hours the clinic would be open and what days, and we are supposed to be able to give a dose in 10 minutes. And so how that flow is going to work is how they base our allocation.
Do you anticipate administering all 975 of those within a week, a couple of days? Do you have that thought out, or? If
people sign up to take it, we should be able in 7 or 6 days give close to that amount. So
did you folks personally recommend who gets it first in your healthcare workers in the long term, or how was that selected?
We selected for our employees here. So so the different long-term care facilities will, of course, it's going to be all of their staff, because they're going to be, with patients or have contact to infectious material. So it'll be most of their staff. They can come here or they can wait. They all have agreements with Walgreens and CVS, and they will start going into the nursing homes within the next 10 days to do the residents, and they can do the staff then as well, or the staff can choose to come here.
I know that you have provided additional personal protection to your ambulance service folks. I know I've seen them with those gigantic, whatever, I don't know what the masks are called, and I know they all wear protection when they come in contact. I was mentioning the other day that, sometimes when you hear on the police scanner, if anybody listens to the police scan, you'll hear that it's interesting that today you'll hear the dispatcher, something they never had to say before, is they tell the first responders, whether that's ambulance or police or fire, that the patients are symptomatic, you know, and that's something that emergency people, first responders, never had to worry about before. So
Yeah.
I know that you folks, you guys, you folks that provided that extra material that they need to protect themselves, and they probably disinfect everything once they transport.
Yeah, this is a great story of collaboration. With regards to the 911 system, there was a protocol developed early on where that 911 dispatch would assess the situation verbally with the caller, and they talk about those respiratory symptoms. And that has definitely helped our EMS staff be prepared for those on-scene scenarios. Today, with regards to all of our PPE, we have a variety of options for our PPE. You mentioned the mask that you saw our EMS folks wear. There's a variety of different masks that have that same high level of protection available for all of our staff. And that's a question I frequently receive. Do we have enough PPE to keep our patients and staff members safe? And today we have several days, with over 30 days of inventory on hand to accommodate. In some cases, we have over 100 days supply on hand. So we feel very comfortable with the PPE. And with regards to sanitation, yes, we're very aggressive with regards to keeping all of our surfaces clean and doing appropriate disinfection to ensure that patients, our team members, and family members are kept safe.
Right. So Suki, once you're through that 975 doses, do you have a timeline on when the next round will come? And if the Moderna vaccine is available at that time, will you folks switch back and forth between whenever other companies get approved, or will you stick with the Pfizer one? How does that work?
That's a good question. The state will actually make the allocation, and they'll decide. It's not anything that we can choose.
Okay.
And so once we'll report to the state, they'll be able to track the vaccinations that we get, and they know how many that we have. And then they'll send out as we need it. So if they see that you're not using as much as we thought you would, but this place over here is going through them really quickly, they're going to reallocate, that to the other hospital. So it really is a collaboration of the state.
We have seen reports early on that, when they were talking about the vaccine midsummer, that, 40% of Americans were sitting there saying they were going to take the vaccine. I think that report has finally gotten up to about 55%. Last poll I saw, and I believe that CDC officials are saying that, and Dr. Fauci, who says that you've got to have about 70% of Americans to get this vaccine. And obviously people are concerned about it, and I'm just wondering, are there reasons not to take this vaccine? And is there anything you can say that might ease people's minds about getting this vaccine?
Well, with regards to some of the risk factors, we know, through some of the publications that have come out over the past few weeks, that individuals that have a history of anaphylactic response to some type of allergy or that sort of thing is definitely contraindicated. Also, with regards to the technology and the advancements with molecular level technology and drug manufacturing, my understanding, the drug companies, as they researched this, it took them less than 30 days to identify the molecular level analysis of this virus that had to be modified to ensure that the vaccine was effective. And there's just been significant advancements. And, keep in mind, our system is different today at the FDA than it was a year ago. A lot of barriers. One of the major barriers for vaccine development has been cash. That barrier, and it would take years to develop the cash flow to invest in a vaccine, and that barrier was removed because the government supported the development from a cash standpoint. So they were able to energize and gather various resources to develop this in a much quicker fashion. But oftentimes money is a barrier, and that barrier was removed. There are some other barriers from a regulatory standpoint that were removed with regards to the testing and validation of the product, and many thousands of people were involved in the trial of this. So I think our community can feel very safe and confident that this is going to be safe for individuals. So.
Around it, I was going to say the scrutiny around it is the same as it's always been. You know, the testing and all that, that's, you know, has remained, so.
Once, do you know, once someone gets the vaccine, will they have to be quarantined if they're contact traced? Do you have any idea about that?
I don't know that level of it. And, you know, that's one of the things I talk about, Jeff, with regards to being exposed. If you're wearing your mask, your PPE, keeping your social distance, one of the things Suki and I talked about before we started here on this live broadcast was, are we 6 feet apart here, and can we remove our masks? And we are 6 feet apart, and we're very diligent about that. The community at large, we get relaxed with family members and that sort of thing, but that's very important. We have some upcoming holidays. With every holiday or every social gathering weekend over the past few months, we know there's going to be a spike. There's going to be an increase. So just be diligent. Keep your distance, wear your masks, and even after you have your vaccine, yes, those rules apply. That
was going to be my next question. Was President-elect Joe Biden has reportedly going to ask Americans to wear a mask when they're out in public for his first 100 days, and I don't believe he's going to make a requirement or a mandate, but he's going to ask that. And I was going to ask, if you get the vaccine, will that be necessary?
You know, from a society and protecting others, protecting yourself, I think it's totally appropriate to continue wearing masks for the foreseeable future, regardless if you've received the vaccine or not, because this is going to take time to vaccinate the numbers of people. And just think about it, you know, Decatur County has approximately 26,000 citizens. To vaccinate just 26,000, and some of those individuals, you know, if they use the Pfizer, you're going to have a second injection that's going to be necessary. So this is going to take a bit of time and diligence and patience, quite frankly, with our community. So using those safeguards are really important going forward.
Do you foresee that if people get the vaccine, that they'll be allowed to go see patients, their friends and family in the hospital or long-term care facilities if they have it? Or I assume probably still wearing that mask, but does that make it easier, or will those rules change?
I think over time those rules will evolve. One of the biggest challenges that we've had as healthcare providers over the past few months, whether it be in the clinic or in the hospital, is involving family members. Because early on, the state and CDC recommended that no one come in with the provider and the patient. That has really been challenging, because healthcare is about having appropriate support from family and friends and loved ones. That's an important component. So our current state is, you know, if it's absolutely necessary for someone to accompany an individual to see a provider, we do permit that, because we know that emotional support is very important if the PPE, you know, the proper precautions are in place.
Right. So if you get COVID, if you get the vaccine, or if you have COVID, you've had COVID, do you still get the shot?
I believe that is the recommendation, that you would get the vaccine as well. Okay. Yes.
All right. As the hospital administrator and Suki as the corporate and quality compliance officer, will you folks be getting the shot too?
Yes, we will. But I remind, you know, Suki she's anxious to get the shot, but you know, some of these state guidelines have, you know, administration is not top on the list.
Right.
And but yeah, we'll certainly be getting that at the appropriate time. So.
The appropriate time. I think we have a question on our chat room, and it says, and if you have this answer, if you have an employee that refuses to take the vaccine, how will that be handled? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, the way we're going to handle that here within the organization is we're going to mandate that individual continue wearing all the protective PPE, and that's as we do today. You know, this is very similar to the flu vaccination that we've been administering and requiring in healthcare for many years. And yes, some individuals that work in the healthcare environment refuse to get the flu vaccination, and we had certain requirements around that as well.
But our staff, our flu vaccination rate with our staff is like 97, 98%. So it's all about, you know, that education and them knowing, you know, that it's safe and for the benefit of protecting them as well as our community. And
I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to guess that other employers probably should check with the labor department on what they can and mandate their employees to do, or what,
Right.
how they should handle that as well. So we've taken up some time, and I appreciate that. I thought we'd run about 15 minutes. I want to see if there are any questions from anybody that's on our audience, and if they want to log on and ask a question. Don, are you seeing anything?
We don't have anything new right now.
Okay. If anybody has any questions or anything, you have just a couple more minutes to ask those, or feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question and introduce yourself to Rex and Susie and Suki, and we'll go on from there. So, Rex, I do appreciate it. I'm not seeing any other questions coming on. Any final thoughts from Suki, you, and Rex? Did I miss anything?
No, I just think, what a wonderful thing. I think it was Dr. Weaver said that, to think that all of our most vulnerable individuals in the nursing homes being vaccinated by Christmas, what a gift that is.
And, Jeff, I just want the community to know how dedicated our physicians, our nurse practitioners, our entire staff. It's been a very challenging year, but it has been so rewarding in ways to see the energy, the dedication, the compassion. They're just these heartbreaking stories of, those nurses being at the bedside, supporting someone that is severely ill at the end of life and that sort of thing. And it's very special to be a part of right now. And there's a few scenarios that have just been really impactful, certainly from the caring and compassion, but there's also scenarios I want to remind the community at large that don't put off your health care. We experienced individuals that had put off their health care, came in for some type of assessment and that sort of thing, and we really encourage those health and wellness screenings. And just please do not put off your health care due to being afraid to be in the hospital or a clinic. Our clinics are safe, our hospital is safe, and we want individuals to get the health care that they need to prevent any type of preventable disease or disorder that they have. So those are real stories that have happened right here in Decatur County, and great stories from a caregiving standpoint, but some of those stories that are very impactful that the individuals have put off their health care and things that could have been prevented. So
I had an appointment up there just a couple weeks ago, and I got to tell you, I was impressed with being greeted at the door, asking me questions, asking me to use the sanitizer, and then when I went into where I had to go have some tests done, and we were socially distanced, and I appreciated that. Everybody had their mask on, so I thought the place looked magnificent, smelled remarkably clean. You could just smell the cleanliness in the air, and I appreciate everything that the hospital's done. Don, you want to read that next question we have?
I think it may have just been answered on the
okay,
chat
right.
as well, but the question is, how will it work when individuals who are over the age of 65 are then eligible to receive the vaccine?
Yeah, they're still deciding the process of how that notification will go out. Right now, we're working through the healthcare workers, but we figured in the first of next year, in the next month or so, it'll be able to be out to the community.
Yeah, a lot of the process is being dictated by the state with regards to how you sign up and get scheduled for the vaccine, because the state is trying to keep a record of the individuals that have received the vaccine. So, and dealing through this process, what we found with the CDC and the state, it's a dynamic process. What was true a week ago may not be true today. So we are staying, that's part of our incident command responsibilities, is assess the current situation as it stands right now. And some of these things have evolved, and we'll continue to keep the community informed as things do change.
And it looks like for those who are watching and cannot read our chat, as I just thought about, it looks like if we go to dcmh.net/COVID-19, updates are going to be posted there, as well as on DCMH's social media. So if people want to follow them, I think they can get some updates there as well.
Rex, what's your, realistically, and I know it's guessing, it's looking at a crystal ball, but realistically for Decatur County residents, all Decatur County residents that want to get the vaccine, what's a realistic timeline? Is it midsummer, fall?
Yeah, I do believe it's midsummer before we can get to that critical mass of that 60, 70% of the population. So it's going to take some time. It is. But I think also there's going to be more options available. You know, the initial rollout was phase 1, healthcare workers and those individuals at high risk, and only certain locations being able to administer the vaccine. Over time, more locations will be available, more vaccines will be available, and also our community will adapt to accepting this more readily.
Terrific. Don, are there any more questions?
Not at this time, no.
All righty. Rex, Suki, from the hospital, Decatur County Memorial, doing a great job. Appreciate everything you've done. I know the community really stepped up. I knew there were tons of Jeeps at one time during the spring that rolled up, and they were all flashing their lights, honking the horns for healthcare workers. I know there's been sidewalk chalk. I know we put out a call from the chamber for people to put signs at their window and thanking everybody that's on the front line for their efforts and for sticking with us and everything, and to keeping the faith. That's the big thing. So Rex and Suki, I appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much. Thanks for your valuable time. I know you're busy, busy, busy. And folks, that's all we're going to have time for. We will talk to you soon. Good to see you today, Rex and Suki. Take care. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your day.
All right. Bye-bye.